Blueprints of the Broken, Episode 2, The Design of Belief. When the new century took hold, control no longer needed whips or chains. It only needed stories. The rewritten world had discovered the true architecture of obedience, narrative. People did not have to be forced into submission if they could be guided into faith. The systems of the early 20th century understood this with frightening precision. Belief could be manufactured, and once belief was captured, behavior would follow. The human spirit, once tamed through fear, could now be shaped through suggestion. In the decades after 1921, propaganda became the most sophisticated science on Earth. Governments and corporations learned that ideas could travel faster than armies. A headline could shift emotion. A photograph could rewrite truth. Radios carried certainty across oceans, and soon voices replaced bayonets. Repetition became gospel. The message was no longer obey, it was believe. And when belief feels like choice, control is complete. It was the perfect illusion, the sense of freedom wrapped around invisible boundaries. Psychology gave these architects their tools. Theories of motivation, group behavior, and conditioning were no longer confined to clinics. They became instruments of policy. Every reaction, every purchase, every political loyalty could be measured and predicted. The individual was no longer treated as a soul, but as a pattern. To know the pattern was to guide it. To guide it was to rule without appearing to rule at all. The study of the mind became the study of influence, and influence became the quiet science of domination. The wars of the 20th century proved how effective the design had become. Propaganda turned violence into virtue and doubt into treason. Populations marched not because they were threatened, but because they were inspired. The same mechanisms once used to erase cultures were now applied to entire nations. Uniform thought became the ultimate weapon, a silent alignment of millions under the banner of belief. Soldiers carried not just rifles, but conviction engineered by design. The flags they followed were woven from emotion itself. When peace returned, the experiment did not end, it adapted. Advertising replaced the war poster. The dream of progress became the new command. Happiness could be bought, identity could be branded, and belonging could be sold back to those it was taken from. The laboratory of influence had gone global. Every slogan carried a dose of reassurance. Freedom, prosperity, choice, the vocabulary of control wearing the mask of desire. People no longer needed to be told what to want. They learned to crave what was offered. Education followed suit. Schools became factories of narrative, teaching students not how to think, but what to trust. History was filtered, heroes were selected, and entire generations were raised fluent in omission. To question the story was to risk isolation. To accept it was to be good. The same psychological frameworks that once justified empire now justified conformity. The curriculum became a compass pointing always towards obedience, and the boundaries of imagination shrank with each new chapter rewritten for convenience. And yet cracks began to form. Artists, philosophers, and elders who remembered older truths whispered against the design. They saw that belief had been reduced to reflex. They knew that when people stopped questioning the source of their convictions, they no longer possess belief. They are possessed by it. The real war was not between nations, but within the human mind. The battlefield was thought itself. The terrain, perception. The prize, consent. Today, the architecture stands in digital form. The slogans have become algorithms, the repetition automated. The design of belief is now self-sustaining, millions of invisible hands curating emotion, outrage, and loyalty. The systems do not demand trust, they simulate it. We scroll, we react, we consume, and in doing so, we reinforce the loops that shape us. The feed has become the new scripture, written and rewritten by unseen authors. Every click is a confession, every silence is an endorsement. But even within this machinery, the oldest impulse endures, the need to see, to understand, to remember. Every time a person questions the narrative, another fracture appears in the facade. Every time an older story is retold, the original pattern flickers back to life. The design of belief depends on blindness. The act of seeing through is the first revolution. To remember is to resist, and to resist is to reclaim the authorship of one's own mind.